there was almost no, we call it, residential properties around the village. Every place was a shop. So as you're looking over there, that was a shop. That was a little grocery sweet shop in our time in the 60s. To the right here, this one here, was a little bakery here back in the 50s. Which is interesting are those little houses up there. They're basically the same shape. I'm going to show you a photograph here in a moment and pass it around. And make sure all the photographs are handed back, will you? Because it's very embarrassing. We'll have to frisk people later on. So all the photographs come back. And this is a photograph from probably the 1870s or thereabouts. And in fact, you can see that it looks relatively familiar, except of course, with the drains and things there. So you can see the four houses there on the left-hand side. You can imagine what the village looked like. You're actually at the bounds here now. This is where the boundary began for the actual town. This was the beginning of the town itself, the beginning of the village. It began here at Barry's shop. So I'm talking now about the 1911 census, 1901 census. If you want to go further back to the 1870s, there's nothing here. But from around 01, the village is expanding down this way. Imagine, it's expanding. It sounds a very big word, doesn't it? It expanded quite dramatically between 01 and 011. The census at the time is telling us it went from about 200 odd people up to about 400 in the space of about 10 to 12 years. But what was more interesting was it went from a small number of houses, 40, 50, up to nearly 100. So there was huge kind of expansion going on. It was a boom, shall we say, between 01 and 011. And that was added to during the First World War. The First World War, of course, was a great boom town for Ireland anyway. It's an agricultural country, supplying horses and cattle and all sorts of things to the war effort. And that'll bring us to other stories as we go along. So what you're looking at is an extraordinary boom in the life of the village in that kind of 01, 020 period. Around 20 years, the village beginning to take shape and all those houses are coming on stream. And you're going to get slate houses for the first time, for example. A lot of slate is coming in. And another thing is happening as well is that they're starting to begin things like, say, the coal burning stoves. And our grandfather, who lived up here, and I say our grandfather because who is here tonight is my cousin Dolores and cousin Michael and so on. So we're talking about our grandfather. He was the first guy to bring coal into this village back in the 1910s, 1920s. And talking about bringing coal in, I know there was a story told about people going out with a lorry from his shop and bringing in a 30 hundredweight of coal. That's what the capacity of the lorry. They were called 30 tonners, 30 hundredweighters. And they bring 30 hundredweight of coal in the lorry, shoveling it on in Palace Green, because that's where they brought it from. So it came in from the station Palace Green on a lorry into Doon and shoveled off. That's 30 hundredweight. That's what nowadays. Is it a pallet? Those guys know. I think about a pallet and a half. And when the lorries come in now above to my brother's place, like he brings in maybe 40 pallets at a go. Lorry goes away, comes back a following day, 40 more. So coal burning just beginning. 30 hundredweights probably kept going for days and days and days because, of course, you were burning mostly turf around here because you had the bogs down here, you had the bogs here in Capamore, the Doon Road bogs, and so on. And, of course, there was all turf burning going on at the time. So we're now going up to what's called the Tour Road, which began to develop in the 1880s, 1870s. Lots of little shops here, right up to the corner. As I said, you had just here there was a bakery. There was 3 or 4 bakeries here in this time, because now you can see what's happening as well. The commercial life of the village is beginning to happen because people are now buying bread. So you actually have bakeries beginning here, and bakeries are selling bread. So Doon actually had 2 or 3 bakeries in this time. And then you're going to have other things happen, like it's going to have his bank. The bank came in here in the 1910s. So the bank is coming in. There's a hotel actually on top of the town. The village had a hotel. And they're all beginning to show the commercial extent of its village. And you're having now for the first time people like hardware guys. And our grandfather was a hardware merchant here. So you have people like hardware, and you have people like drapery coming into place, and bootmakers are coming in. You had at one stage 2 or 3 bootmakers here. And there's a distinction between shoemakers and bootmakers. So you've got one guy who's considered a bootmaker, a little bit better than the guy who is a shoemaker and so on. So this is the extent of the beginning of the village here. And you go up to the crossroads and just look at the shape of the crossroads, because it's interesting as well. It isn't actually a cross. It looks quite different because this is kind of an add-on. You could imagine a sort of an opening here, and then they came down this way then kind of across a soft boggy patch, because it isn't quite in line with what you call it, the churches there. That church is only there since the 1830s. That's only 200 years. So pass that around, you can see that. That's built sometime in the 1870s. That photograph was taken. To give you some idea what it looked like at the time. Okay, next stop, the cross.